Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is India, and I am going to be talking about books with great titles today. I'm going to talk about some books that I have read, some books that I want to read, but ultimately these are like books that I read because the title is compelling, and I think there are a lot of those. We talk about the cover buy. We talk about the books we acquire because the cover is beautiful. I think that also is true of titles that are engaging, that catch our interest in a quick amount of time, can be just as like immediately compelling as a beautifully or aesthetically designed cover. So let's get into it, talk about some books that I have read first. Starting off strong with Carmen Maria Machado's short story collection, Her Body and Other Parties. I love this title. It pretty much like any title that has body in it is one that I will want to read and want to pick up. Other examples include The Body Is Not an Apology. That's a great, compelling, grabbing, gripping title. This collection of short stories is creepy and weird and kind of experimental, just kind of creepy, feminist, queer stories, a lot of which have to do about like the physical embodied experience of like gendered violence and gendered discomfort. Next, basically all of K. Tempest's books and like poetry collections have amazing titles. Last year I read Brand New Ancients, which is just like, who doesn't want to read that? Who doesn't want to bring up that book title whenever they can? But also Let Them Eat Chaos is another one of their poetry collections, which is just amazing. A lot of their most of their poetry really centers on the individual versus collective experience, specifically centered in London, and so really tackles like loneliness and feelings of isolation, feelings of like not being enough and not being able to be enough. The classic human condition. But yes, I like A+ titles, and also just like A+ books. Next is a book that I didn't read, so whether or not it actually deserves a spot on this list is questionable, but I'm going to mention it anyway, and that is The Past is a Grotesque Animal, which is a Argentinian play written and directed by Mariano Pensotti. And I watched a recording of this play for my like last theater class in college, and it's about how we relate to the past and like covers this 10-year period of these like four individuals or four couples, three couples from the late 90s to like the late 2000s. Just covers the economic crisis in Buenos Aires and relationship drama, family drama, like disclosing, like information is disclosed. Basically, like the coolest thing about this play, and if you ever have the opportunity to see it or watch a recording, I would highly recommend you do so, is it is set up in a continuously moving stage that has like, that's a circle with 4 quadrants, each of which are kind of like mostly stay the same setting in like stage design, but can like switch out and whatnot, but you only really see 1 to 2 quadrant at a time as it's like constantly moving, and it's so cool. I love it. And an amazing title, The Past is a Grotesque Animal. Yeah, okay. A nonfiction book that I read while I was in high school, I think, or like my freshman year of college, was How to Be a Heroine, or What I've Learned from Reading Too Much by Samantha Ellis, I think. This is a kind of memoir, kind of literary analysis, literary discussion about the female characters in books that Samantha Ellis connected with and kind of learned from, and adopted as these mentors, or what is the word that I'm looking for? Like positive influences in growing up. And so I'm pretty sure Anne Shirley makes it on there. It opens with a discussion of Jane Eyre versus Kathy in Wuthering Heights. Yeah. And like who's better, who you connect more with, and what that says about you. And I think this was just really well done. And it's like I like seeing and hearing about the specific characters in the specific books that shaped people and influenced how they grew up and what they cared about, because books are influential, and it's just really awesome to hear about that. So yeah, it was a good book, and I like the title a lot. And lastly, the only book that I have with me, right? Do I? Where is it? The only book I have with me. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson, classic queer literature. This novel is very closely inspired by and almost autobiographical in telling Jeanette Winterson's early life of being raised by incredibly religious parents, and finding her sexuality and finding her attraction towards women, and the conflict between those two, her mother's attempt to exorcise the gay demons from her, and is a book that I strongly need to reread, but found very compelling. And the title is incredibly compelling. Jeanette Winterson published a memoir that tells the actual story, the more truthful, less fiction version of her life, and also has a great title of Why Be Happy When You Can Be Normal. So yes, recommend Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, and want to read Why Be Happy When You Can Be Normal. Though I anticipate like it'll just be more heartbreaking. Nice segue to the books that I have not read, but I've pretty much put on my TBR because of their titles. We have a mix of nonfiction and fiction. The first two are nonfiction. First, we have Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism and Other Arguments for Economic Independence by Kristen R. Godsey. As someone who enjoys reading about socialist feminism, why wouldn't I pick this book up? It sounds so good. Like, what a title. So reading from a blurb, quote, she tackles all aspects of a woman's life: work, parenting, sex and relationships, citizenship and leadership, in a chapter called Women, Like Men, but Cheaper. She talks about women in the workplace, discussing everything from the wage gap to harassment and discrimination. In What to Expect When You're Expecting Exploitation, she addresses motherhood and how, quote, having it all, end quote, is impossible under capitalism. So yeah, I just think it's gonna be nice. I mean, nice may not be the right word, but a good read. It has a great title. The next nonfiction book with a great title is No Modernism Without Lesbians by Diana Suhami. This is about the lesbian women, the queer women who are living in Paris when modernism was really like becoming a thing, and explores their lives, their contributions to modernism, and kind of how they've been erased from modernism, or from discussions about how modernism was created / founded / can it really be founded? I don't really know. I just like that Capote called this, like, quote from the blurb, Capote called them the all-time ultimate gallery of famous dykes. And I think just the phrase gallery of famous dykes is great. Next, The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera, which is a modern classic. The first time I heard about this book was this guy who was reading it for our independent book project my sophomore year of high school, and I was like, that sounds like a title. And I don't think I was able to retain the information about the title, not so much about what the book is about. It sounds like it's about this guy who is in love with someone, but also just keeps playing around with other people, with other women, and it's about that. In various reviews, there's the phrase, as interesting as it is upsetting, which sounds like something I may enjoy, and also unconventional. I enjoy reading unconventionally written or unconventional narratives, so, why not give it a go? Next, we have some books that I'm pretty sure I first heard on Jen Campbell's channel. But first we have Our Endless Numbered Days by Claire Fuller. This is about a young girl whose father is a survivalist and kind of takes her to go live in the woods, and they adopt a relatively self-sufficient lifestyle. But one day, Peggy, the main character, finds these boots and somehow makes her way back to London and to her mother, and the information about why she and her father were where they were, or what was actually happening, starts to come together. Next, we have The Woman Who Gave Birth to Rabbits, which is a short story collection by Emma Donoghue. I also want to read her short story collection, Kissing the Witch. Both of these titles are so great and so fantastic, and I've been wanting to get into Emma Donoghue's short stories. I've only read Room, but I've heard great things about everything that she's written. Next, we have a Louise Erdrich book, which I love the cover and the title. They're both so beautiful, and this is Future Home of the Living God. From what I can tell, the concept of this is that evolution has started to go backwards, started to reverse itself. So people are giving birth to what appear to be previous, more primitive species of humans. And there is this woman who finds out she's pregnant and really wants to find her birth mother. She's living with her adoptive parents. Her adoptive parents go missing while she's looking for her birth mother, and there is this rising tension and rising stakes as she's trying to find these people because pregnant women are being detained, and stuff is happening. I think this is going to be so good. I don't know, for some reason I'm anticipating this will give me similar feelings to The Handmaid's Tale, but probably more because of, stories that concern something's happening with whether or not people can get pregnant. Next, we have the memoir I'm Telling the Truth But I'm Lying by Bassie Ikpe. This is a collection of personal essays about Ikpe's experience being Nigerian American and navigating that experience alongside being diagnosed with bipolar 2 and anxiety and living with those mental illnesses. I'm constantly trying to find authors who are writing about their experience with mental illness. Also, the cover, the way the text is laid out, is so great, and I think adds to the title. What? Typography can also change the way that we think about and interact with words and a title? No way. I love it. I love it a lot. We then have Eros, the Bittersweet by Anne Carson. This is a book Anne Carson wrote that is all about love, about Eros, about the ideas, particularly stemming from classical philosophy and ideas about what love is, what it feels like. Sappho was the first to call Eros bittersweet. Anne Carson is brilliant. I love the way that she... Hey! What are you doing? Why does my cat choose when I'm filming as the time to make trouble? I found the culprit. Okay. I love the way that Anne Carson combines personal narrative and scholarship and is just this like very academic writer, but makes it personal, makes it feel energized by something else. It's not dry. I don't know. And I remember like I skimmed the beginning of this when I was like thinking about some other things for school and knew I wanted to return to it. I think also just bittersweet is another term or another word that I find really interesting. So if a title has that word, I don't. Do I know how to explain why I think things are interesting? Lastly, a book that has a lot of things going for it, like so many things going for it, is Too Much and Not the Mood by Durga Chubose. This is a memoir collection of essays about writing and creativity and the inner experience of being an artist, all of which I really enjoy reading about. But, okay. The title is pulled from a quote by Virginia Woolf, so check of why I should read it, as someone who has a fondness for Woolf and her writing. This is also closely inspired by Bluets by Maggie Nelson, which is one of my favorite books. So I just need to read this. I just need to read it, both because the title, which I at times like will quote, like too much and not the mood. It's a mood. On that note, thank you so much for watching. Let me know some great book titles that I haven't mentioned. And yeah, bye!